I'll leave it there. You get the idea. I'm Kelly and this is Sasha. You'll see I've got a very unusual profile picture there. That's the the same year I started UX usability. Back then it was 1997. I was with my nan Maud, who's 75 there. She's now 102 and still going strong. But the bad news is, let me just flick back. Look at how I look now. Look at the venture into UX, you will lose your hair. Sorry, Sasha. You also get big ears. I've not got big ears, I've got a big nose, unfortunately. But okay. We're gonna, first bit then. We've got a little bit of a question. If you can get your iPhones, not iPhones, any phone, grab a picture. So yeah, there's a couple of questions just to find out a little bit more about yourself so we know who's in the audience. Then equally, there's a Q&A tab, and you're able to ask questions. The great news is, look at this, we have 3 little prizes. These are Star Wars squishables, stress busters basically. So the top 3 questions will get one of those amazing prizes. So if you've got any good questions, and do pop them up, we'll ask them at the end. And you can actually vote on the questions as well. So if it's a popular question, you think, actually I want to know about that, then vote it and then it will go up. So we'll see.
Managed to get up.
Is it?
Is everyone ready? Okay, let's start the first one.
So yeah, lots of UX designers. A few directors as well. Do stand up if you're a director and do bow, please. Content designers, that's good to see. UI designers, analysts.
Should we move on?
Yeah, cool, thank you. And then, so what's your experience then of UX? How long have you been in UX? It's close, between 1 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years.
It's like a race.
Yeah. Who's going to win? Who's going to vote?
2 to 5.
2 to 5. Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Super, thank you. So we'll jump back to the slides.
No, one more question.
Oh yeah, sorry, there was another one, isn't there? Yeah, why are you here today? So this is quite an open question. It could be anything. Why are you here? Is it just to see me? Or is it actually Sasha? Was it Andy? Was it to know more about UX?
To become a UX Jedi. I like that. Free coffee.
I knew someone would say free coffee. So keep that open. If you've got a question, you can just fire that off any time during the presentation. We'll answer the questions at the end. But yeah, if you get voted to be one of the top 3 questions, you will win a prize.
There you go.
So, imagine the responsibility of a UXer working at the NHS. They have to create an app to show customer data as clearly as possible. So has that designer done as much testing as they can? What if a doctor's looking at the new screen is colourblind or dyslexic? We've heard about some of the doctors coming back from the NHS because not enough doctors. So there could be some older doctors coming through that are now partially sighted. They have to use magnifying software to zoom in. The pressure of making sure that interface works for everyone, to be able to read that customer data clearly, is absolutely key. So, back to basics, something I've seen and I've witnessed over my career now for, say, 27 years. A long time ago, I studied karate, and I did it for many years. Got to black belt, fantastic, and I was invited to a black belt seminar, just for black belts only, a whole weekend of training with an 8th Dan black belt from Japan. I was so excited. Went down to, I think it was Birmingham, spent the whole weekend there, and we just went through the basics. I didn't learn anything new. You just sat down and went through all the basics again, because over time you slightly adjust and you change your weight without realising. Your stances are slightly different. The way you punch, maybe you're just moving your elbow out a little bit instead of punching straighter. So that resonated with me, and I thought, I've seen that as well in the UX environment as well. So how many here, if you put your hands up, if you've actually facilitated any user sessions, if you've got to prototype a design, you've checked it with other people, and you've facilitated a session, how many have been facilitated here at all? Okay, there's probably a good 50% or so. So the one thing that I've seen is there's a terminology called basically use a test for dough, not for show. And that is you need to make sure you keep the user in a very neutral state. So when you're user testing. And as an example, when you sit down with a user and you've got these different tasks to do, we all know we need to keep the task not leading. We sit down with the user, and what I've seen, some of the mistakes have happened over the years. I've observed at agencies in London. I worked in America for 5 years, and I was working with a very senior UX researcher there. And they would show a screen and they'd give them the user a task, and halfway through the task, they'd say, "Oh, what do you think about that? I noticed you read that text, but then you click that button over there." So the user, or the customer, is now over-analysing what they did. Also, another mistake I've seen is that you may have a task, and then they'll go back and they'll talk about that task. Well, what did you do? What did you see? What did you like and stuff? And again, you're moving the user into the mindset of an analytical mindset. So the key, I guess, is that making sure you wait until you get to all the tasks completed. And if you're a fantastic UX researcher, you'll be able to go through all of the tasks, and then at the end of those tasks, they're still in that neutral state. Only then do you do a retro and you check back and you go through the existing pages, the screens, and say, okay, now what did you think about that? I saw you do this. So that's absolutely key, to keep everything as neutral as you possibly can until the end. So don't get the user to analyse and start thinking about, oh, I'm really helpful, I'm finding something else out. Do make sure you leave those to last. And that's some of the basics that I learnt from Jacob Nielsen many years ago, to keep things as natural as you possibly can. And then they say it's a good research, you'll come back and then you can dig into the detail when you need to. So your career will expand for probably 35 plus years. There's potentially a lot of companies you will work with. There will be a lot of people you work with over the time period. So do impress everyone. Impress not just your current manager, impress your team members, your people that you work with, whether it's in marketing or legal, your squad, your managers, testers, product owners, developers, all sorts. Build great bridges everywhere. And consider what's the impact you have with everyone you work with. Are you positive, happy, enthusiastic? Are you motivated, hardworking? Do you add value? Do you make a positive difference? Do you help others? Are you a team player? Are you proactive? Are you organised? Do you have good communication? Do you present well? Are you always developing yourself? How would others rate you in your team? So if a team member left your team and joined another company, what would they talk about you to their new boss? If they had another opening, would they say, yeah, this is fantastic, you're such a great guy to work with, and you do so well? I had a really interesting story from when I worked at Aviva. There was a director who said to me, when I come into meetings, if I've had a really rough meeting and I'm really down, maybe I didn't get my way in a meeting, I will step into the next meeting, I will motivate myself up again, and I'll be 100% focused, and I'll be happy, and I'll move in, and I'll be able to move in, go into the meetings. And that was quite interesting to see. Don't let other people affect you. Do carry on and have that mindset and just change. It's really key. And again, people will see you with those little moments. Sometimes someone, you might work with someone else in marketing. They only see you once a week, for example. Those 5 minutes, and that's going to be those key minutes about how they relate to you. So let's move up another gear then. So I've had a few presentations by different gold medalists, Olympic gold medalists, and it was fascinating to hear what they did to become, to be the number one in the world. What did they do? They looked at all the micro details, so about their diet, their sleep patterns, the level of exercise they needed, the recuperation, their mindset, how they strive to be better each day and find that edge to further improve. So what can we do as UXers? So I'm going to now hand over to Sasha to go into detail about different skill sets. I'm going to keep these over here.
You can take the prizes. Thank you, Kelly. Let me just grab these bits. So it can feel quite challenging in the current UX job market. There's actually been a reduction in job posts since 2022 and an increasing number of UX candidates going for those. So it's so important to make sure the quality of your CV and portfolio are really there and that you've identified any skills that you might be missing, and upskill yourself. This is your opportunity. So firstly, what are employers looking for? Skills can be broken down into hard skills, soft skills, and stretch goals. Hard skills are your technical abilities. This is the knowledge you gain from training, practice, and education. Whilst your soft skills are the interpersonal skills and your personality traits, basically the ability to perform your role. And stretch goals, well, they're the cherry on top. So they set you above the rest. So what hard skills are employers looking for? I've looked at a number of jobs that are currently live at the moment and did a bit of a tally of what common hard skills are there. So I'll leave this up for a second if you want to have a look. But I think it's not surprising that we're seeing sort of prototyping, wireframing, visual design very high up. And interestingly, most sort of mentioned Figma as well. But equally as important is the user research, like Andy and Kelly have been speaking about today, and also the ability to analyse the results and findings from that research. So what can you do to help nail these skills? These are the ones we're going to focus on today. At the heart of UX is the customer, and you need to speak to real people and help solve the problem or need that you've identified. Familiarise yourself with various testing methods. So you've got A/B tests, where you're doing sort of tests against multiple design options, moderated, where you're walking a participant through the tasks and sort of seeing what they're doing in a natural environment, and unmoderated, where you're setting a participant tasks in their own time and then viewing the results after. But again, like understanding that data is the key part of this. There's no point doing all this research and talking to everyone if you're not going to do anything with that findings, not going to do anything with the results. Are you able to identify those key points in the tests? Are you able to reflect on what changes need to be made? So you do get the benefit in some larger companies where they'll have dedicated UX researchers. I know myself and Kelly work with some very talented UX researchers that you will learn a lot from. But you've got to have that flexibility in your role. You might be going to a smaller firm, or you might just work for another company that doesn't have UX researchers. I also think it makes you a better UX designer as well, having those personas in your head, thinking about all the people you've done research with before. So you need to be using the right prototyping tool for the analysis you need. So if you're wanting to do tests on forms or data input, you'll need to use a program like Azure. So as you can see in this prototype, the customer's able to type in information. If you're using prototyping tools like Figma, which has advanced loads recently, you'll only be able to do click-throughs. So you won't be able to see if people are struggling in particular fields. Like there might be a really common issue in some of them, like sort codes or date of birth fields. They're always one people sort of do slightly differently. So yeah, like I say, pick the right prototyping tool for what you need. So visual design is key to be able to create innovative, visually appealing interfaces. Are you up to date with sort of colour theory, typography and layout? And do you have that knowledge around user psychology? So can you understand the motivations, the behaviours when reacting with your interface and product or service? At Leeds Building Society, it's really important that we make the customer feel safe and secure when on our journeys. I've also just popped a link to the government design system up here. Hopefully you'll have heard about it before, but it's an amazing website which is full of very validated components to use in your designs. So these have been tested by loads of people and they are all accessible as well. So it's a great tool to have for any level designer. In terms of design tools, Figma is most currently mentioned in the kind of job posts that I looked at. And it's free, so if you haven't got experience in it, make sure you do. But don't get complacent. There's always more new tools on the market, and the tools that we currently use are always advancing, and there's new things to learn. So it's important to keep self-development. We also saw that showcasing of work is listed in the hard skills that employers want to see. So even if you don't have a bank of work that you've got previously, you can create your own briefs. Create your own briefs, carry out your analysis, create your designs, and have that portfolio together. What I've previously done for interviews in the past is actually created a presentation deck with some of my ideas and analysis for that company. So I've gone onto their website, put myself into the customer's shoes, gone through the journeys and then highlighted any pain points I've seen and then thought about kind of what I would do around a hypothesis and sort of defining that solution. That's always come across really well, and it shows your investment in that company and your kind of knowledge and basically what you can bring to that role. One pitfall I do see with people though is that they'll focus on a particular page or a particular element. You've got to focus on the bigger picture. A customer isn't coming to your website and just being enticed to click the perfect looking button. They're coming to explore the website. They're coming out to carry out their own personal job or task and looking for the help they need. So think about the wider picture. So what soft skills are employees looking for? Just as important as your hard skills are your competency and interpersonal skills. So the most common ones I've seen here are communication and collaboration. Let me just move to this one. So we're going to focus on these ones today. And in terms of agile experience, that was listed quite a lot. So as you can see, it's third down, but we don't necessarily feel you need to have loads of experience working in companies which work in an agile way. If it's listed on a job spec, don't not apply just because it says agile and you're like, oh, I don't have that agile experience. Upskill yourself, go do that research. You're not applying to become a Scrum Master. You're applying to be a UX designer. So you can upskill, you can learn the agile methodologies and the principles, and then you can go into that interview and explain your understanding of agile and how you slot into it. So I just wanted to kind of make that note that don't be afraid. So the best UXers can effectively communicate and present their ideas. Buy-in from stakeholders is going to be one of your biggest challenges, but can also be so rewarding. They're always going to have opinions, and it's your job to have that balance of commercial savviness and the user needs. And then you need that kind of empathy and with the stakeholders to share that data-driven insights. Use aids like wireframes and prototypes. So recently we took some demos and prototypes to our board members and put mobile phones in all of their hands and said, try this journey on our current website. Then we said, what issues did you find? And they all had many comments. And then we said, what about this one, our new design that we'd tested and validated with people previously? Oh, the people around the room were very excited and they could really feel like what we'd done was a great idea and they could buy into our vision. So things like that really help get your stakeholders involved. Continuously learn and evolve. So flexibility is key. Can you iterate your designs? Can you change your processes? Quick adjustments on different user and business needs? Are you continually exploring interest trends, tools and technologies? Are you participating in UX communities and ongoing education to stay informed of best practices and evolving user expectations? Being a UX designer is all about flexibility and upskilling. So what stretch goals should I focus on? So we've listed a number of stretch goals that we think could be helpful up here. I'm sure there's many, many more, but we're just going to talk about a few. So accessibility was one that we really focused on when we were recruiting last year. So when you're designing, have you created your designs to meet sort of accessibility guidelines? The basics would be your color contrast, your font sizes, your basic layouts like heading structure. Whilst going further would be speaking to people with various different needs. So maybe someone using a screen reader, using a screen reader going through your website, or is it someone who maybe English isn't their first language, or even colour blindness? So it's going down. Analytics as well, so do you have that more in-depth use of insights and data? Have you ever used Google Analytics, or maybe a tool like Content Square? So Content Square will analyse your website and show sort of common clicks and common journeys. That's always really helpful. Then there's AI, which is the buzzword of the moment. We don't feel this is necessarily a must-have at the moment, but it is becoming more of a must-have. I think it's more about trying out new technologies, trying out tools, and also trying out the AI elements in your existing tools. Are you using it in Miro or Confluence or Figma? I think it's more about having it as an aid than solely relying on AI tools to do your work for you. Think of it as more of an assist. And in general, developing yourself. So I think that's been the common thread through this presentation, but are you developing yourself, but also thinking about how you can bring out and upskill your team members? So is it something like sharing a bit of research that you've done with others, or even just sort of helping them with a tool or software that they might not be as capable of? So I think for me, that's something I've always really focused on in my roles, is like how I can bring the team up and upskill them. So I am now just going to pass back to Kelly. So thank you for listening, and he was going to do the wrap up.
Thank you. So, great news. If you are currently employed as a UXer, you are already a Jedi. You can harness great power to positively impact many people's lives. So do fully utilise your power, continue to help strengthen the companies you work with. As a UX Jedi, do help and guide and support others throughout your career. Most importantly, continue to develop yourself relentlessly. And then...
If you can use your technology of your phone.
We're going to move on to questions now, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, can we share the questions on here? Or do you want to read them out, Vinny?
Yeah, it might be better to read out. If that's
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, have you got the other mic?
Oh, do you want to use that one?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Hello,
This is Vinny.
I'm Vinny, everybody. I'm the UX designer for Leeds. It's my job to do the tough part now. Right, so the top questions are, so how do you balance stakeholder versus user needs?
I can take that one if you want. Yes, good question, and some stakeholders can be tricky. I think the best thing that I've always done is involve them in the early stages. So don't go and speak to all your customers, go speak to all the people, and then come to them with a finely polished design. You're like, I've come up with all this exciting stuff, here's an amazing journey. I'm sure it's great. And then stakeholders are like, oh, but what about this issue? And oh, I need that, that's a legal requirement. Get them involved at the start. Get them involved in an ideation workshop. Like, getting their buy-in at the start is really gonna help you succeed and move your designs further. So yeah, for me, it's getting them in an ideation workshop, getting them creative, make them do a crazy 8. They'll enjoy it, I promise.
Cheers. I'll just add a little bit to that as well from what I've seen. Lost my train of thought now. So yeah, I guess as user testing, if you do user testing, you'll get people to. Hold on. No, I've lost my train of thought. God, that's amazing, isn't it?
The data and analysis and giving them.
No, it's more for the direction of UX then. So for UXers, you can provide or direct the stakeholder request basically. So if you're feeding in, this is what the users actually want, it will help them to adapt what their own stakeholder needs are. That's where I needed to go, because yeah, you'd use UX to feed that in. So they should be able to adjust and change the stakeholder needs from that user research you do, whether that's running focus groups, whether it's doing one-to-one testing. Cool.
Next question. If you're asking users their thoughts afterwards to main neutrality, how do you guarantee their response after the session would be the same as during?
I'll grab that one.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. So I've tried it many different ways over the years. Luckily I was trained by the head of UX at Google many years ago. And what we found is you're there for half an hour, 45 minutes. You go through 5 or 6 or 7 tasks, and it's only 20 minutes have passed since the user did that task. They don't forget stuff, but what you do is you bring back the screen, you go back through the task and say, actually, okay, let's go back to the first screen, this is the first task, this is what you did, and then you call that, and that's where they'll remember. So they'll use memory recall, because they've seen the screen again, you'll talk them through it. You as a fantastic facilitator would have made little notes to see where they've hesitated, and you'll bring out more information. But that's been really key. So yeah, certainly if you left it a day or two and then you pull back, they wouldn't recall that. But literally, because it's only 20-30 minutes later, they will then understand they'll be able to bring out that data that you would do even if you asked them on the same task after every task.
What has been the most challenging and fulfilling project you've worked on to date?
God.
It's a good question, isn't it?
Maybe.
God, yeah, I've got one.
I'll tell you, well, when I previously worked at Jet2 and the pandemic was happening, I think one of the most challenging projects was making sure that it was easy to cancel your holiday. So obviously that was probably something we maybe didn't make as easy and clear on the website previously. It was more like, you know, they had to go through a few hoops and jump a few loops. But yeah, when the pandemic happened and obviously the call lines were off the hook and everyone was trying to cancel the holidays for known reasons, we had to do a quick turnaround and make it easy to sort of choose your cancellation option and get their sort of money back. So that was probably a challenging one just because of the circumstances, and obviously everyone had the same user need, which was to cancel my holiday.
Cheers. Yeah, I'm the same in a different company. So I worked at, say, a large American company, and it was when the Apple Watch first launched, and we went to really quickly get to market to launch an Apple Watch app. So being involved in producing the wireframes, working with a developer to produce this app, and everything was all very new, and that was quite exciting to see that. So they were able to, it was great PR for the company to say we're the first payroll company in America to launch an Apple Watch app. It wasn't used very much, but it was good PR. So we've got who asked those questions, because we've got these fantastic prizes. Let's all one over here. Congratulations. Well done, good question. Another hand up here. And that was the last one. Over there. Shall I throw it to you? You've got to catch it. Thank you, well done. So there's quite a few other good questions that have come through, but I think we'll need to move on to the presenters now. But thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.